Well, hey there, Streakers. It has been quite the Tuesday. Tuesday's been here and now gone. And I was just thinking back on the day, and I thought about what it was that I wanted to chat with you about today, which was, and listen to this, frustration is a function of expectation. That's the thought that came to my mind. Where did it come to my mind? Well, as you think about different events that may happen in your life, or what you expect to happen in your life and then doesn't happen, that can be a frustrating experience. Oftentimes, as I look through the different areas where I've been frustrated in life, it's because what has happened has not met the expectation that I've set up there. You know, one of the things that we do, I think, to ourselves in a not very good way is we set up expectations and then we compare our life to those expectations. And maybe you don't do this, but I've found that I do this. And in that comparison, I come up short because the expectation is always going to be something that's grander, greater, and more significant than where I am right now. The expectation is perfect. As I look forward into the future, that expectation of who I'm going to be or what it is I'm going to achieve or what it's going to look like when I get there is full of all the great, grand, glorious things, not necessarily any of the bad, awful, or difficult things. It's always going to, when you get there, be something that you are, when you're comparing to it, where you realize that, well, I didn't really meet my expectation. So the question then is, well, just before I get to the question, as I think about it, it's like chasing the rainbow. I remember just the other day, we had a beautiful rainstorm here and rainbow showed up afterward, and it seemed like the rainbow was just right outside of our window. And you know, as you've experienced rainbows, as you go after them, that rainbow goes further and further away, or you lose it completely. That's what expectation is. It's the rainbow that it looks beautiful and it's gorgeous to see, but when you arrive at the place where you think it is, it's not really there. And that's expectation. The question then is, how do you set up things in such a way that your expectation is not one that causes frustration, but is actually one that you use in order to be motivated and to move forward? Because I don't think it's a bad thing to expect certain things in life. Well, maybe it is a bad thing to expect certain things in life. Maybe more so what it is, it's a good thing to plan for what you want to do in the future, to have a goal that you press forward toward. Now, let's talk about goal for just a second. What is a goal? And it's important to define this very succinctly. And the reason why it needs to be defined succinctly is because when you set a goal in life, you are setting up a specific situation. You are actually setting up somewhat of an expectation. You're going from where you are now to a place you're going to be. Since I run all the time, let's use that as the example for what a goal is. If I have a goal to run a marathon on a certain date, that goal is either going to be accomplished or I'm going to fail. For example, this last year, I prepared for running a marathon. It was the Utah Valley Marathon. And I did all the training and everything necessary to run that marathon up to the 20-mile run. So I ran a 20-mile run. And then the next week, I ran a 5-mile run and I strained my hamstring. Pulled it, strained it. It was difficult to run. Well, I was still 2 weeks out to the marathon in running it. And I thought, you know what, it can heal. So I would do my run walk every day because that's one of my streaks. And I was walking to let it heal at least 1 mile every day. And as I got closer and closer to the marathon, I realized that the strain was significant enough that I was choosing not to run the marathon. I could have run it, and I believe would have strained it even further, even pulled it, and thus jeopardized my streak. But I didn't want to jeopardize the streak, and so I made a conscious, deliberate decision to not run the marathon. So I failed at that goal. Now, some may say, and actually a lot asked me, were you frustrated with that? And this is where I get into the expectation. I had a goal to run the marathon, but when it came down to it, I didn't have necessarily an expectation that I would run it, because when I strained my hamstring and recognized that I wasn't going to run that marathon, at that moment, I still had the streak of run or walk at least 1 mile every day that I continued to do and have not broken since we set it almost 8 years ago. That was the mitigating factor for the expectation. Had I had just the goal in my life, just the goal of running the marathon at that point in time, I believe that I would have been very frustrated, because I would have had the full expectation that I would complete the marathon. However, since I had the goal, not the expectation, I had the streak to keep that alive, that allowed me to overcome whatever frustration. I actually didn't even feel any frustration, because I thought, you know what? I'm going to defer this particular marathon to next year, and I'll try again. And I'll continue to train and work and see if I can't get what I need to healthy or in order to run that marathon. So as you consider everything in your life, look at your goals and recognize that it's okay to have the goal, but having an expectation may set up something for you that causes frustration in the future. And rather than causing yourself frustration, why don't you give yourself motivation by setting a goal and then keeping streaks alive to achieve that goal? From writing a book to running a marathon, you can do it. You can do it on the laughably simple streaks that give you the base and the foundation in order to become who you want to be, and not frustration. That's one of the other things that happens with expectation is focusing on an outcome, not on the input. And putting your focus on the input gives you the ability to win every single day. That's the cool thing about streaking. If you want to learn more about how to start a streak, how to have winning streaks in your life, download the Streaking app. You can do that at the Apple App Store or Google Play. Also, you can order the Streaking book. Order it from Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or anywhere books are sold. Please, if you wouldn't mind, subscribe to the podcast. Give us a rating on the podcast, the book, or the app. We'd appreciate it. Until we talk tomorrow, keep streaking.